And Joe, where we stand right now with this is that Donald Trump has put out on Truth Social that, release the documents. But he has to do that through the court, correct? Through his attorney.
Right. Has to
and may not. And then if not, a judge decides? Judge
would decide. Let's go to somebody who wasn't actually playing or reading Hunter Thompson books during law school classes. Artie Melber, who could answer that question better than me.
What's the process?
Artie, what's the process now?
Well, shout out to Hunter S. Thompson and Fear and Loathing. The process, as I understand it, would be that this still goes through the judge. So as you emphasized, the out-of-court statement is interesting, newsworthy, but yes, the judge would consider what the Justice Department filed yesterday, which was both their argument for release and their reference that the Trump lawyers should have the opportunity through the court process, through a court filing or discussions with the judge, to weigh in as well before the judge finally decides whether to release.
Neal, what are your thoughts about where we are, where the process is right now, and Merrick Garland's moves yesterday?
Yeah, so I thought Garland's move was a brilliant kind of chess maneuver here. And Ari's absolutely right that this will go to a court at around 3 p.m. was the deadline for Trump to respond. Now, normally the target of a search warrant doesn't even have any say, Joe. It's just the government saying, look, we want to release and get public disclosure of the warrant. But here Garland had the smart idea of saying, well, Trump's complaining about this being so abusive and the like. Well, let's see, will he allow and support the release of these documents? That basically forced Donald Trump's hand, because if he said he didn't want to do that, it looked like he had something to hide, coming on the heels of him invoking the Fifth Amendment 440 times earlier this week in a separate proceeding. So where we are now, Joe, is basically I'm kind of terrified about the behavior of the former president. I mean, we're talking about our nation's most serious secrets, nuclear, electronic signals intelligence, which is like how we intercept communications by foreign leaders and the like. And it's not just the intrinsicness of those secrets being so valuable to foreign governments and the like, but it's also how we got those secrets in the first place. It's the sources and methods that's so important. That's often human lives, spies. It's, complex technical capabilities and the like. And if a foreign adversary or some, for-profit enterprise can get access to those, and we know Mar-a-Lago isn't all that secure, they can reverse engineer those documents and figure out how we produced them in the first place, jeopardizing our folks in the field and the like. Right. And so, if these reports are true about signals intelligence, about nuclear secrets and the like, there are a lot of members of the Republican Party who have to seriously reconsider the grave national security threat posed by Donald Trump. And, this is as bad as it gets.
Yeah, John Heilman, it's fascinating. Yesterday afternoon, before Merrick Garland came out, Maggie Haberman with the New York Times said she had heard from Republicans who had said that the White House or that the former president's people had reached out to him and said, maybe back off a little bit on the attacks, suggesting that there may be some really bad information out there. Last night, we saw Laura Ingraham push Trump's lawyer almost sort of with his, wait, are we really? Would he really have nuclear secrets at Mar-a-Lago? And other people reporting that the mood has changed significantly around Republicans who thought this was going to be the greatest launch for Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign, because it ends up that, are kids awake? It's summer, right? Can I say it or not? I'll just say the stuff got real. It appears that the stuff is getting real fast.
Yeah, unlike Donald Trump, I'm not going to plead. I'm not going to plead the fifth this morning, Joe, and because it doesn't seem to have done him any good in this particular week. And I will say, yesterday, although no one on this set or in this virtual space that we inhabit, or in any way associated with the show, tends to watch the morning show over on that other network you sometimes refer to. But there was a moment yesterday when one of the hosts there on that other network started pushing Steve Scalise in a way where he was talking about, well, why are you guys attacking the blue so much? You shouldn't attack. Republicans like those, supposed to like the blue. You should back off. And a lot of people were puzzled because that particular cable host doesn't generally push back on Republican lawmakers all that much. All of a sudden, it makes a lot more sense if the White House was starting to send out these messages yesterday to, not the White House, the Trump orbit was starting to send out these messages to tell their media cronies and enablers, hey, we better back off here. We got to start, we're not in the right place here trying to inflame all this anti-law enforcement rhetoric because there's going to be some bad stuff hitting the fan, as you point out. And look, I mean, everyone is talking about, I totally agree with Neal about the brilliance of what Garland did yesterday. You know, Joe, you and I had this conversation the day before about should Garland speak or not. We were texting back and forth about it, and the notion that they should stick to policy. Garland found the perfect way through that yesterday by kind of saying, you know, I have a little bit of a loophole here on the policy of we don't speak about investigations because the former president revealed the existence of the investigation. I will go only this far. I will go so far as to say, yes, we will allow for there to be this warrant. Not all of it, not the affidavit, not everything, not all the information that many people want to see, but a limited release of information, and call the bluff on Trump as to whether he is now going to stand up and say he's going to try to get his lawyers to go in there and try and stop the thing from coming out, which would be a rather devastating implicit admission that there are problematic elements to what he took. And the last thing I'll say, Neal talked about all the ways in which these documents, if they are what the reporting suggests they are, we have both the two best sourced newspapers in the country on this story, at the New York Times and the Washington Post, both suggesting that is in fact what these secrets entail and these documents entail. Yes, one giant concern is whether foreign adversaries could find their way to possessing them. Another is the possibility, and God perish the thought, that Donald Trump, and I say that sarcastically, that Donald Trump might have thought, when I leave the White House, I'm going to take everything of value, of potential monetary value that's not nailed down. And you can't steal the furniture. It's hard if you're a president to walk out the door with furniture. But you think you can steal documents. Apparently he thought that. And those documents, if those are what these documents entail, man, there's a big nuclear black market out there in the world. Those secrets would be worth a ton of money if the president wanted to try to monetize them. So I think there's not only the possibility that they might somehow fall into the wrong hands because Donald Trump has no ability to control information around him. I think there's the other worry, which is that Donald Trump might try to exploit them in some way. That has to be going on in the heads of some people at the Justice Department as well.
Yeah, I've been through the process before on the Hill when I was a member of getting briefed on classified information about nukes. And it's an extraordinary process. I mean, the entire process, you understand just how heavily protected these documents are. And so for anybody to take classified documents out of the White House, especially some this sensitive, if in fact they are this sensitive, would be nothing short of extraordinary. Neal, I want to circle back to Merrick Garland again. And John's right. He threaded the needle perfectly. He was a guy who was doing an institutionalist who was doing his best to protect the institution, to go by the standards of professionalism that we want from our attorney generals and from the Department of Justice. And I thought it was very important when he kept talking about how they used the least intrusive means to get this information, that they had tried time and again to talk to the former president. They had negotiated with the former president. They were hoping to be able to do it without a search. But it became evident they had no other choice. I think that's really important for Americans to understand, that they bent over backwards, being deferential to a man who had shown absolutely no deference to classified material.
Exactly, Joe. And so when I describe this as a brilliant chess move, I don't think Garland was doing it for that reason. I don't think he was trying to be strategic. What he was doing was just following the ordinary Justice Department rules, which are like, stay silent until you have to do otherwise. And I found time and again when I was at the department, if you follow the Justice Department rules, if you follow the tradition, it tends to embarrass the critics because there's a lot of wisdom in those accreted rules. And, you know, one just really great example of this, Garland really busted Trump because Trump was sitting there complaining, Merrick Garland, Justice Department, you did this for political reasons, to put pressure on me and things like that. And Garland said, what are you talking about? We kept this secret. We didn't say a word about this to anyone. You did this, Donald Trump. You're the one who disclosed this and revealed it. If this is all about us putting politics and pressure, why would we do this in secret? And he did that similarly with, you know, this idea that the FBI planted documents, which Trump, you know, put on his social media. You know, he said, no, your lawyer was present at the search the whole time. You got a copy of the warrant. You got a copy of what we took and the like. So just these nice, subtle interventions by Garland. Yeah. I thought it was as fine a day as Garland's ever had.
So let's bring in staff writer at The Atlantic, Ann Applebaum. She has a fascinating